Fragment versus whole, the power of partial vision in art. In visual art, one of the most powerful decisions an artist can make is not what to include in the frame, but what to leave out. The human mind naturally seeks completeness. We want to see the full picture, the entire body, the full context. But in painting and photography, especially when working with the human form, completeness is not always the most powerful choice. Sometimes, fragmentation carries more meaning than wholeness. When we look at a cropped image of the human body, something interesting happens in the mind. We are no longer simply observing, we are completing. A fragment of a shoulder, the curve of a back, the subtle line of light across skin, all begin to activate imagination. The viewer is no longer passive. The viewer becomes part of the creation. The missing parts are not empty, they are filled internally by memory, emotion, and personal interpretation. This is why fragment versus whole is not just a technical choice in composition, it is a psychological experience. A full-body image provides clarity. It tells us who, where, and how the subject exists in space. It offers explanation. But a fragment removes explanation. It removes certainty. And in doing so, it replaces clarity with feeling. In painting, this idea has existed for centuries. Artists did not always paint full figures simply to complete a scene. Often, they studied isolated parts of the body with deep attention. A hand, a torso, or a partial figure was not unfinished work, it was focused observation. By isolating a fragment, the artist could study light, proportion, and emotional rhythm without distraction. The fragment becomes a method of understanding rather than limitation. In photography, this concept becomes even more immediate. The camera does not suggest, it selects. The frame defines reality instantly. Everything outside the frame disappears completely. This makes cropping one of the most powerful artistic tools. A slight shift in framing can completely change meaning. A full scene might feel documentary, but a cropped fragment can feel intimate, abstract, or emotional. There is also a strong emotional shift that happens when we move from whole to fragment. A complete body often feels like a finished statement. It feels defined. But a fragment feels open. It feels unresolved. It suggests continuation beyond the visible frame. It tells the viewer that the story does not end here, that something exists beyond what is shown. This openness is what makes fragmented imagery so engaging. The viewer is not just looking, they are participating. The mind fills the gaps automatically. And because each person carries different memories and emotions, each interpretation becomes unique. The same image can create multiple realities inside different minds. In the context of human figure art, fragmentation also changes the relationship between identity and abstraction. When the full identity is removed, when the face is not shown, or the body is partially revealed, the subject shifts away from individuality. It becomes symbolic. It becomes about form, light, and presence rather than personal identity. The human body transforms into a visual language rather than a specific person. This is why many powerful works in both painting and photography rely on restraint. They do not try to show everything. Instead, they guide attention carefully. They allow space, silence, and absence to become part of the composition. In this way, what is not shown becomes just as important as what is visible. Fragmentation also creates a different sense of time. A full image often feels like a moment captured completely, but a fragment feels like a moment extracted from something larger. It suggests movement beyond the frame. It feels as if the subject existed before the image and continues after it. This creates a subtle emotional tension, a sense of something ongoing. The viewer's psychological response is deeply connected to this structure. The human brain is designed to complete incomplete patterns. When we see something partial, we instinctively try to resolve it. This is why fragmented composition holds attention longer. It is not because it is more explicit, but because it requires participation. The viewer is mentally active rather than visually passive. There is also a quiet beauty in not revealing everything. In a world where images often compete for attention through excess detail, fragmentation introduces restraint. It slows down perception. It invites focus. It creates space for reflection. Instead of overwhelming the viewer, it allows the viewer to breathe within the image. In human figure art, this restraint becomes especially meaningful. The body does not need to be fully shown to communicate presence. A single line of light across skin, a partial silhouette, or a cropped gesture can hold emotional weight. The less that is shown, the more the mind searches for meaning. Ultimately, the discussion of fragment versus whole is not about which is better. It is about how perception changes when completeness is removed. A whole image explains. A fragment suggests. A whole image describes. A fragment invites interpretation. And in that invitation, something more powerful happens. The viewer is no longer just looking at art. They are completing it within themselves. And sometimes, what we create in our imagination is more powerful than what is physically shown on the surface.